Today, Bitcoin briefly spikes to $67,000. Kathleen Breitman of Tezos discusses the launch of Donald Trump's crypto token. And Domingo of Securitize breaks down the expansion of BlackRock's BUIDL tokenization platform. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Mackenzie Sigalos. Bitcoin briefly spiking, but coming back down from its highs earlier in the morning. By noon Eastern, the cryptocurrency traded above $67,000 after jumping to $68,000 earlier in the day. Ether rose to $25.72 and Solana climbed to $153. All right, let's jump to the first of our two conversations. Donald Trump's crypto project, World Liberty Financial, issued the first of its tokens today, and thousands of investors raced to scoop them up. I spoke with Kathleen Breitman, CEO of Tezos, about the project's launch and what she thinks it means for the presidential race. So the Donald Trump-backed crypto project, World Liberty Financial, launched its token this morning, and almost immediately we saw hundreds of millions of tokens sold and about 3,000 holders, according to Etherscan. What's your reaction to this launch and its significance, given a presidential candidate is backing this project?
Well, the fact that a presidential candidate is backing this project is really its only differentiator between that and about 10 dozen similar DeFi lending protocols. So, if you're going to have a differentiator, you might as well have a guy who used to be president be that.
Any reaction to adoption so far?
Well, I mean, a lot of the DeFi protocols that have been proposed and launched over the last few years fall under what I've called Ouroboros finance for the last 5 years. Basically, they're self-referential almost. There are tokens that exist to be traded that create tokens that exist to be traded. You can lend, buy, and sell them. A lot of what the cryptocurrency space has done over the last few years, despite billions of dollars in R&D, is basically just figure out ways to financialize other blockchains. So this falls into a great tradition in the cryptocurrency space. They didn't really do much that any other project on Ethereum would have done. But, obviously getting the Trump family to sort of endorse this is a huge mark for the Trump campaign to court basically the cryptocurrency community, which unfortunately the Harris campaign has chosen not to do. So unforced error by the Democrats to basically alienate a large constituency in that respect. But it's a good sign of confidence that the Trump campaign actually means what it says when it wants to court cryptocurrency holders.
I do wonder how much you think this means for the general public, because only accredited investors could buy into this project. But Trump is framing it as part of this push to crypto supporting voters. Do you think that actually translates to those voters?
Yeah, in the sense that, you don't see anything even remarkably similar from the Harris campaign. I mean, I suppose it's probably maybe a hedge from the Trump campaign to only do this with accredited investors. But still, it's a better show of relations than the Harris campaign.
We're still missing some details about how this project will work long term and what the benefit will be to investors beyond the utility of WLFI. Is there anything you'd still like to see in terms of details from World Liberty?
I'm about as unimpressed with the details as I am from every other DeFi project. So in the sense that this is as unremarkable as what's been going on since 2021. In fact, it's quite a stale proposal, but for the fact that the Trump family is involved. So for me, looking at this, I have no aspirations for a lot of these things to actually materialize into something that would do financing in the sense that you ought to finance an activity or some sort of end goal. But unfortunately, a lot of what DeFi has become is this very recursive game. So really the broader takeaway I have is essentially that Donald Trump has decided to court a community that the Harris campaign has decided not to. And it's really a pity because there's really no reason that cryptocurrency had to be as politicized as it has been over the last few months. But really, that's been my big surprise from this 2024 campaign is that cryptocurrency would become such a heavily politicized issue.
Last question for you real quick. In terms of actual changes that could be made by these candidates, actual promises on the campaign trail that would materialize into fruitful changes for the crypto community. This summer, a lot of people were really pleased about what Donald Trump was saying and on the energy front, in terms of other things that he was saying about the composition of the SEC and how he would change that were he to take office. Some think that Liberty Financial has undermined a lot of the progress that he has made in terms of this being more of a self-serving endeavor. That's how some people have characterized it, in terms of the fact that it's still very unclear what this project will actually do and what utility it might serve to the wider U.S. public. What would you say to that critique?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're campaigning, right? Like they want to get elected. And, the cynic in me just says that, folks will say whatever they need to say in order to get you to the voting booth and check yes for them. I think that it's an unforced error by the Democrats to have alienated the cryptocurrency community, but you also can't blame them for writing off the cryptocurrency community, which has been in power or been around for 15 years and has struggled to cobble together even a modicum of something that looked like a lobbying organization until like last year. So, it's a horribly disorganized group of people in some ways. And I think the Democrats wrongly assumed that meant that there was a sort of an anti-crypto vote. But in reality, there's a lot of people who have made a lot of money in the cryptocurrency industry, and their inclination to vote with their purse is at an all-time high. It's a tough economic environment. And it was smart of the Republicans to at least rhetorically capture that at a great detriment to potentially the Democrats' campaigns.
Okay, next up, Securitize announced it's partnering with Zero Hash to bring USDC conversions to BlackRock's BUIDL blockchain platform. The hope is to drive more institutional adoption. Crypto World's Jordan Smith spoke to Securitize CEO Carlos Domingo about the development and what adoption of BlackRock's platform looks like 6 months in.
Carlos, thank you so much for being here. I want to talk about this new announcement. You're bringing together a new integration with Securitize and Zero Hash to let institutions convert USDC to invest in BUIDL. Walk me through this announcement and why the integration of USDC is so important.
Well, since we launched BUIDL, we had already added the reverse functionality. So crypto companies that are holding BUIDL can actually redeem against USDC. As you know, stable coins is a huge market, over $170 billion. And it's an important way of being able to move BUIDL within the crypto ecosystem at crypto speed. But we were missing the other way around, which is like the ability to be able to invest in USDC. And that obviously has different, complications. And we have announced today, as you know, that we have partnered with Zero Hash to be able to take USDC and then convert it into US dollars to ultimately invest in the fund, and then issue tokens in the BUIDL fund to the investors that deposited the USDC.
I want to talk about trends in BUIDL in just a moment, but if we could focus on stablecoins for a second, you talked about the size of that industry. How do you see stablecoins rising in importance among institutions? Because generally, I feel like we're seeing this resurgence and talk around stablecoins and how people are using them. Are you seeing that environment come into focus right now, especially from institutions?
Well, certainly, stablecoins is, you can argue, is probably one of the things in crypto that has product market fit, right? It's a very clear use case, which is take dollars that are inefficient to move around and then to convert it into a token that is backed one to one to a dollar, and then being able to move that dollar at crypto speed and in crypto rails 24/7. So we see stablecoins as a growing market. There's a lot of new players coming out. Of course, there's like two giant players dominating 90% of the space, but I think that there's going to be a lot of new players entering as well. And overall, the market, I think, is going to grow. And in the last few years, it's grown actually faster than the overall crypto market.
Talk generally about what adoption has looked like of the BUIDL fund and how much interest it's seeing among institutions.
Well, if you think about why stablecoins are important, they're tokenized dollars, right? But if you think about how a lot of the institutions use dollars in the real economy for what is trading, posting for collateral, or treasury management, they actually don't hold dollars, right? They hold treasuries, US treasuries, which is a dollar equivalent, but it earns a yield in a safe way, right? So that part of the market has not existed in the crypto economy, or it has been very small. So BUIDL is essentially a tokenized treasury fund that is, equivalent to a dollar. It's obviously not a tokenized dollar; it's a security, but that gives you a yield based on the current Fed rate. So since we released BUIDL, first I think it has stimulated the overall market. We've captured more than 50% of the growth. We're currently sitting at a record $550 million out of around $2 billion. But compared to the stablecoin markets, the tokenized treasury markets is still very small. And our predictions are that, tokenized treasuries are going to grow faster than tokenized dollars, just because this is a reflection of what happens in the real economy, where treasuries are actually bigger than dollars, right?
We've talked about some of the catalysts building adoption for BUIDL. I also want to ask about potential headwinds, and mainly, I guess, what comes to mind for me is regulation, concerns around SAB 121 and things like that. Do you see regulation as a headwind for this project at all, or are there changes that you're hopeful about in terms of getting institutions on board?
Well, first, this product is a security, and we follow, securities regulations in the US and other jurisdictions where we've issued BUIDL. So from that perspective, we don't expect that the regulation is going to be a problem for the product. The product, it's solid from a regulatory perspective. Of course, there is other, things from a regulatory perspective that we like to do as a broker dealer in the US. We like to do custody of securities in a simple way. We like to be able to hold the stable coins, to be able to deal with them against BUIDL. And there is a number of things that, today they're not a problem because we don't have them, but hopefully with a more, favorable regulatory environment, we'll be able to get approvals for them and be able to do more things, not just with BUIDL, but with any other tokenized asset. From a regulatory perspective, in June, I think it was one of the important milestones in the industry because the US Congress held a hearing on tokenization, which I had the pleasure of being one of the participants. And I think that's a very important step forward into putting tokenization as part of the regulatory discussion and the policy discussion in Washington, because even though, as I mentioned today, we do have a regulatory framework where we can operate, but we'd like to actually be able to do more things. And hopefully those things will come in the future.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.